I heard that you saved JD.
Yeah, that first vote?
No, like his life.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome back to Life After Borneo. I'm Lauren Ashley Beck. I took a little hiatus, had a little something going on, but we are back and in action with season 41's Brad and Abraham. Brad and Abraham, how are you guys doing?
Hey, Lauren, how you doing?
It's so great to have you guys here. So great to have you here. How are you guys feeling since your season wrapped?
It almost feels like the season never wraps once you join the family, because it's always something related to Survivor that's going on. Like I'm looking at Survivor Australia on working with a young man. He's out there, brilliant podcaster, and he's doing Australian. I'm like, this is amazing. Then Sandra was on that one, and her daughter's on that one. So we kind of got a connection to the U.S. So Survivor never ends.
It's so true. Brad, what about you?
A little bit different for me, Lauren, because I came back to the ranch and the cows, they don't care what I've done or haven't done. So life is kind of back to normal. And every now and then I'll go to town and I'll run into somebody who's like, oh, I missed you. You got booted too soon. And that's always fun. But no, life is kind of back to normal out here.
I love that. That's so awesome. All right, Abraham, we're going to get right into the nitty gritty. Everyone wants to know, what was it like to be the first person voted out of Survivor 41?
You know, and everybody expects to say, well, I was mad. I wasn't mad because I got a chance to have the experience of a lifetime. So it's a 2-point answer to that question. And what you don't see is what's been edited out. When I got booted off, I was tired. I was mentally and physically exhausted. Don't get me wrong now. I wanted to play the game Survivor, but I ran into the hands of what's his name, Billy? I was so happy to see Billy, who was our handler. I was like, thank goodness. I ran back there and hugged Billy like I had never seen him 4 days ago. So it's a mixed bag. You know, emotionally you're there, physically you're there. You want to give 100%, but I tell everybody else, everybody gets voted out of Survivor until you get to the $1 million winner. So no matter where you go first or if you go 17th, you're still getting voted out.
That's absolutely right. And I know about that all too well. On a more positive note, Abraham, I heard that you've been applying for Survivor since 2000s. What has kept you applying, and what was it like to finally get that call for season 41?
Well, you know what? I've always enjoyed the show. And at that particular time, you had to submit a VHS tape and you had to mail it in and you had to write your application out. That's back in the good old days. And I was in Okinawa, Japan, and I wanted to apply. I had just seen Richard Hatch, and I seen that whole Survivor concept. And you know, I was like, I'm an outdoors type of guy. I grew up on a smaller version of Brad's ranch as a kid, split between the city life and split between the country life. So I wanted to go out there and get my hand at it. And at that time, and I told Jeff the same thing, y'all probably shouldn't have picked me when I was at that age because I was a little different. So I'm a little more seasoned and mellow right now, but then I was like 29. I was like, nothing can stop me. So I was ready to go. And I just wanted to be on Survivor. And throughout the years, as I moved around different parts of the country and lived overseas for 16 years, I still wanted to be a part of Survivor. And when I retired from the military, I was sitting in my office and I said, hey, you know what? I'm gonna apply one more time. And I tell Jesse this, I said, when Jesse called me, I didn't answer. I could see who was calling. I said, I don't know this guy. So I work in cybersecurity, so I reverse engineered his phone number and pulled his name up. I looked Jesse up. I looked through YouTube on Jesse. I did the whole background check before I called him back. I don't know this guy. And he was like, hey, I'm from Survivor. Keep this quiet. I was like, who? So I called him back and I was like, hey, how you doing? What can I do for you? He was like, hey, I'm Jesse. I'm calling from Survivor. You know, he got a bottle of energy. And I was like, who is this guy? Is this a stalker or something? And then finally, it was like, oh, this dude is really from Survivor. You couldn't see me, but I was super happy because I finally got the phone call. I didn't care if I didn't get the show. I didn't care if I got selected as a cast because I didn't know how the process worked. I was like, somebody actually saw something in me to put me on the show, and I'm getting this phone call. So I was ecstatic. I was in here yelling. I was having a good time.
I love that. We were all better for it. Brad, was Survivor always the dream for you?
It was not, Lauren. It was not. Right. I'm one of those Johnny-come-latelys, man. I never watched Survivor. I always heard about it, always knew about it, but I didn't know. I didn't watch Survivor until 2019 is when I started watching Survivor. And I watched season 21. Holly Hoffman kind of got me into it a little bit. My daughter saw her speak, motivational speaker, saw her speak at a conference. So that's when we picked it up. And then we watched season 23, and I saw Ozzy, and I'm like, oh man, this looks awesome. This is cool. I could do this. And my daughters are like, yeah, Dad, you can do it. You can do it. I'm like, oh, what the heck? So I just made a 3-minute video, sent it in. That was July of 2019, and forgot all about it. Said, oh, that's enough. And 3 months later, get a text on my phone saying, Brad, I'd like to talk more. I'm like, whoa. And that's when the journey began.
Wow, that's so awesome. I want to ask both of you, what were your family's reactions once they found out you were going to be on Survivor?
Right, that's exciting, man. Because just when you get that first text, you can't wait to tell them, I got a call back. But you tell them that, and each one's like, well, I got a call back, but they probably won't call again, right? Oh, then they call again, they want another video. Yeah, but they probably won't. You just, each step of the way, you think this is the last of it. Enjoy it while you're here, because this is the last you'll hear. And then finally, when you get that call that says, Brad, this is the call you've been waiting for. You're on, you're in, let's do this. That's blow the roof off. The family's around looking, you're like, yeah, we're doing it, man. This is for real. So exciting.
Abraham, what about your family? How did your family react?
My family wasn't the same. I told my wife, I said, hey, look, I'm gonna be on Survivor. She said, what's that? I was like, she doesn't look at Survivor. So I was like, I explained it to her. She's like, oh, that's cool. And she went back to doing whatever she was doing. So I said, you know what? I was trying to make my other 5-minute take. So I called my daughter to film her reaction when I told her about I was gonna be on Survivor. I said, Dad's gonna be on Survivor. How do you think it's gonna do? They probably gonna vote you off, Dad. I was like, okay. Let me go.
It really is your own kids. It really do be your own children, Abraham.
I know the kids. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna go to Mama. Mama loves it. Hey, I'm the last baby born. She loves me. I called Mama and said, hey, Mom, I'm on Survivor. This is TV show. She said, Survivor? Where you going? I said, Mom, it's gonna be in Fiji. She said, no, I don't like that at all. I don't think it's gonna be safe. Now, I've been deployed in the middle of the desert where they be shooting at you. And my mom was like, nah, I don't like Fiji. Because I never told her what the danger was in the desert. I said, well, Mom, be in Fiji, there's gonna be people around me. But once I got selected and they knew I was going, they was excited for me. A lot of the friends that I shared it with were excited for me. But yeah, Mom didn't. I told the staff there doing our individual conversation with them when we were in Fiji, I said, look, my mom said, if I don't come back, none of y'all come back. So take it for what you work, but my mom will come looking for you.
That is a mama bear for you. She does not play. I love that. That's great. Abraham, in talking about your game, can you explain to us why you wanted Tiffany to go home?
Okay, so first of all, I had seen every season of Survivor on YouTube, and what I did was I put it in the lab. And I would watch every player, the Aussies, the coaches, the Ethans, and I would say, okay, here's the game. Oh, okay, here's the technique. Oh, don't do this, don't do that. And every night for an hour, I would work out and look at that. I said, you know what was guaranteed? The weak link always was a focal point, but the strength never got voted out first because you need that person to help you win. I said, well, let somebody else talk first and kind of see how you can gauge it. What I should have did was broke up Blue Tribe. That's what I should have did and went right over there with them. But I said, okay, we're gonna go on there. Tiffany had made enough mistakes where I didn't have to point the finger at her, but I could just kind of nudge it. You know, when she jumped off the ship, she was sitting in the boat because she was tired, a little nudge. She didn't, when we did the actual relay, Tiffany was nowhere to find in my vision. So I was like, okay, she didn't help there. And it just, you got to nudge somebody first. I wasn't trying to nudge myself first, of course. And I felt like anybody that's seen Survivor would realize if you vote off one of the guys, that means the young ladies have the advantage. If you vote off a young lady, that means the males have the advantage. We've all seen Survivor. We all got our game plan, but nobody votes off the strong guys. So it's twofold. One, I had a blast every challenge I was in. I went out, I said, I'm gunning, I'm having a good time. And we, you've been out there, we're exhausted, we're tired, we're hungry, but I was like, I'm gonna have fun. So I had fun. So I can't complain that I didn't have fun. And Tiffany, to me, was the most logical choice because she had made enough mistakes where I could be like, well, you know what, Tiffany. But you probably want to ask Bochet what his thoughts was on that too.
I would love to hear Bochet's thoughts as well. Could you sense any pushback when you did say Tiff's name, or did you feel like we're all good? Tiff is the answer.
In the game of Survivor, everything looks right, but you got like a millisecond to kind of make a decision and either go with it or not go with it. And you kind of say, okay, based off of everybody seeing the game of Survivor, we know we got to win the next challenge. And my whole concept was, hey, we got to stay strong, everybody. We got to win the next challenge or we're going to vote. If we don't win, we're going to vote. And that's where I kind of stayed in my little bubble at and said, hey, if we win this next challenge, which was only one person being voted out, we could have voted out the rest of Brad's tribe, call it a day. But they had a different thing going. So we saw how that worked out. Yeah. So the vindication for that is to see who gets voted out next. And that's how that works.
Who was your closest ally? Who did you want to run the game with?
You know what? Me and Xander kind of connected because Xander had been overseas to Japan and he kind of did some of the things that I've done. We were in computer science. He's going to college for it. I was in the field. So we kind of connected on that. We were out there doing different things. We were exploring the island. So we kind of did that. And it wasn't that I didn't like Tiffany because Tiffany's around my same age or anything, but you kind of say, okay, where can I align myself on getting further in the game? So I went with, hey, let's win these challenges. Well, I know me and Xander complimented each other in that aspect of it. Not to say Bochet didn't, because he did. Liana, because Liana's there, she's playing, and she reminded me of my daughter. Evie is around the same age as my daughter, which was my Achilles heel because Evie started crying and I was more emotional on the island than I was in real life. So, you kind of go in there with a perspective of how you want to approach it, and then it kind of gets turned on top of his head. Once you get to the island, it's a whole different story.
Yeah, that's true. And I would love if Brad and Abraham, you guys could both sort of speak to, because I think there's a misconception when people watch Survivor, they think because you brought up somebody's name, that means you don't like them. And that's not always the case. Usually it's not the case at all. It's just you're closer with another person on the tribe. Can you guys talk about that a little bit, Brad?
Yeah, totally. It's moving all the time. And so even in the edit, you kind of see, oh, well, Brad's after Sarah or Shan. You know what I mean? That's my infamous line from the 2000s, right? But what you don't see is kind of everybody's name gets dropped along the line. I and Ricard didn't mesh from the get-go. From the very start, we were kind of button heads. And so, but you kind of see he's strong with Shan. He's strong with Sarah. And so you're like, well, I don't think I can get Ricard, but maybe I can get Sarah. So you're very careful on what names you throw because, man, if you happen to throw the wrong one at the wrong time, all of a sudden it comes right back to you because that's who they're after. So it's a tricky thing, and the edit kind of doesn't show all that.
Yeah, it is very tricky. And Brad, you know better than anyone how tricky that name thing can be. What was going through your mind when you told Sarah, girl, your name is on the block, and Shan too, right?
Yeah. Well, they were a little like Abraham, right? In my mind, they were the reason we were there. You know what I mean? It's like the puzzle is why we lost. And it was that piece in the puzzle. And Shan had lost that. She was the one who was checking the pieces in the bag. So we knew Shan did that. Sarah was crushing it in the puzzle. She was just knocking it down until she got that piece. So, okay, we lost the puzzle. Clearly it should be one of the two of you. That's where we lost it. It should be one of you two. Well, I know you don't say that, right? I know that. But what the edit didn't show is I spent 4 hours dodging them. You know what I mean? Dodge. And then I walk around the corner. I'm trying to get Ricard. I walk around the corner and here's Ricard with Shan and Sarah. It's like, oh, just who I didn't want to see. And you can see it in my face, and even Ricard's like, there he goes. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to be here.
Got him.
When you heard Sarah say, Brad's playing this game like it's the year 2000, did you know that she was going to say that before it aired? Or when it aired, what did you make of that?
Not at all. So I thought it was a pretty good play. It's like, oh, I was calling the shots. I was being honest. And then when Sarah said that, I cracked up. Sarah shot me a text and, sorry, I made fun of you. And she was ahead of me though, so I didn't know what was happening. I'm like, what? So when I saw it, yeah, Brad's playing. Like, I loved it. We were in a theater watching it with all my buddies. The whole theater cracked up, man. I was like, that was a good line, Sarah.
Yeah, that was great. I know whatever room I was in, everybody roared laughing. It was wonderful. Yeah. Let's talk about sharing advantages. And Abraham, I know that you didn't do this in the game, but I would love to get your perspective. A wise man, his name is Boston Rob, you may know him, once told me that I should never share my advantages. What he actually said to me was, Lauren, every time me and Amber watch a Survivor on the couch and people are sharing their advantages, we're yelling at the TV, why are you sharing your advantages? So Brad, why are you sharing your advantages, Brad?
I guarantee him and Amber were saying that for me, man. Yeah, so it was horrible, right? So here's the deal. You got five people left on the tribe. That's it, okay? And so then I had lost my vote, right? First time in history that a guy can lose his vote by finding an immunity aisle. Instead of the immunity aisle being your power, it's your weakness. So I had some things going against me. So there's 4 votes. And I wrestled with this, Lauren. I wrestled with it. It wasn't just like I was ready to just tell everybody about it. I'm like, I had Jeannie. Jeannie and I were locked, okay? But then there's 3 I don't. That's 1 vote for me. 3 we don't have. And so I wrestled with it. It's like, what do you do to win some votes? You got to do something here. And I chose, it was a calculated risk. I said, I've got to buy Shan's. I've got to show her my loyalty. I got to give her everything I got. And I did. I gave her my heart. Truly, I gave her everything. I taught her. I took her under my wing like a daughter. I'm like, Shan, you're my number one. You're my number one. We got to go all the way with this. Here, I got these advantages. I got these idols together. You, me, and Jeannie will crush it. And I am confident that we would have with the power. And I unselfishly meant that. I mean, I totally would have used those. That's the kind of guy I am. I think everybody can see that. I would have used those with Shan, with Jeannie, and we'd have blown through UA and into the merge with a lot of power. And that's the logic I took. Now, I didn't hear Shan's little anthem song, right? I didn't get to hear that. That would have been a whole lot smarter. But I chose to do that. Yes, it backfired on me. Yes, in hindsight, I can go, oh, I could have done this and this, and maybe I should have. In hindsight, I could have done some stuff different, obviously. But at the time, it felt like the right thing to do.
Hindsight's 2020, and you're right. You did what you felt was right in that moment. Abraham, when you saw all of your fellow castmates sharing all their advantages and telling everybody everything, what was your reaction?
So what the public doesn't know, we're texting each other while the actual episode is going on. And we're like, what are you thinking? Why would you even think about that? Why would you do that? But you look at Survivor, you gotta trust somebody. And you got a short amount of time to build relationships with strangers. So you kind of either try to clue in on something that y'all got familiar about. Because the funny part about it is, if me and Brad was on the Train Tribe, we were actually neighbors when we were in quarantine. We was right across from each other. And Brad never broke the code of silence. I would look dead at him, Brad be like, he would walk in. I'd be like, okay, Brad. So, but you got a short amount of time to trust somebody. And based off of that trust will determine how far your game goes. Like, I didn't know Evie was playing as hard a game as she was playing. Because I'd have been like, well, I should learn Evie. But I wouldn't have gone wrong with Xander. Because Xander came back and was like, well, Abraham, I wished I had trusted you because I would have played with you more. Because the only thing that kept Xander from being voted out next is the fact that they could win. They won that next challenge because he was just like Brad, had the immunity idol, but had no vote. So now he becomes a target. So had they won that next one, you would have saw all the men on Yasa Tribe being voted out. So, but you only got a short amount of time to make those decisions. And I took everybody's story about them lives and everything with an asterisk. Because I don't know you. And I wanted to say, okay, your story sounds good, but I don't know, can I trust that story? But you got to make a decision.
That's a really interesting perspective and a right one, a correct one, because you guys also had an accelerated game. 26 days is not 39 days. So you don't get the chance to really know, is this person being real with me? And I want to ask you both, did you feel like the game was super accelerated, like so fast paced where you had no downtime to think about anything?
It did feel fast because even, the first 2 days are normal. Then third day you go to that immunity challenge. And the first thing we see is only one immunity idol there, right? And so just like 2 people being eliminated tonight, you go, oh no, this is happening fast. I knew we could beat Yasa. It's like, I think we can beat Yasa. Lubu had me worried though. It's like,
he said that, Abraham, he said that a little too confidently.
But, hey, first of all, Brad, you probably want to go back and look at that videotape. I was the first one over the net. I was the first one through the sawdust with my whole tribe. And we were the first one to start pulling the sled.
You crushed it, Abraham. You crushed it. You were ahead of the professional football player, Abraham. You crushed it.
After that, it was all downhill.
Oh my God. So Brad, as you were sprinting down the beach in one of the most iconic moments of your season, did you feel that this was going to be a Tony Vlacho Spy Shack moment, or were you just in the game like it was the 2000s?
You nailed it. I was in the game, Lauren. I was so I'd kind of set this up. JD had the advantage. We knew he had some kind of advantage from this trek he went on. And so I'd kind of set it up like JD has this advantage. And I told Ricard, I told Jeannie, Shan, and we were kind of making this plan. And they're like, yeah, it kind of makes sense. He has a clue to the immunity idol, I thought. So we all sat down and I see Ricard and JD get up to go to water. And you know what happens when 2 people get up to go to the water. And so it was this spontaneous spur of the moment. I just like, whoop. So I'm going, and I didn't look to see what Shan or Jeannie was doing. I'm like, those 2 are up to something and I want to hear what it is. And so I just launched, man. I was just wide open. And I didn't quite know how it ended up, right? I hadn't pre-prepared for that at all. I knew where the well was. I knew there was 2 routes to it. I knew mine was longer. So I was sprinting as hard as I could. And then I scrambled. And it's like, well, there's a bush about 10 feet from the water well. Let's hide in it. And I just dove in that thing and I froze because I was so close to him. And I looked away. I didn't want him to feel my stare. I looked away and just kind of tried to make myself as small as I could. And then I just started hearing him talk. It was like, oh yeah, this is happening. And then of course it feels like Tony, right? It's like, yeah, Spy Shack, going at it. And yeah, it was just perfect.
I love that, Brad. That was so much fun to watch. And even you saying like, I don't want them to feel my eyes on them. Like it was just so you're closing it was so fun to watch. So much fun to watch. I heard that you saved JD.
Yeah, that first boat?
No, like his life.
Oh, yeah.
The first boat.
Yeah, no, we. So you're on the marooning ship, and it's high and it's big, and we're doing our thing. We're finding the oars, and I get on the edge, and there's people below me, and I launch off that thing in my best Aussie dive I got, right? And I'm boosh, and I swim over, and I get on the raft, and I'm on the raft, and I thought I was last one because I got the last oar. And so I jump on the raft. I'm like, okay, let's go. And they're like, no, we're missing, and I look, and there's JD. And literally, he has all these clothes on, right? So he is way down. And he's going up and down, and he's not making any. I'm like, oh no. And my first thought was scuba divers, safety. That was my first thought. I'm like, oh, and then I'm like, no, I can do this. And I dive right back in, and I swim over, and I grab him, and I pull him, and I push him, and I just keep pushing him on. We get to the raft, and I help him up into the raft, and the others in the raft are pulling him up in. We get him up in there, and I thought, man, that's Captain America edit. Boy, I thought I
until Brad just said it, I had no idea that happened.
Is that right? Yeah, no, totally.
Because I accidentally hit him in the rib cage, so that might have been a problem. What's funny is people don't realize that we got up at 3:30 that morning. So by the time you see that footage, we've already been up for at least 12 hours. And most of us didn't have a real breakfast because we didn't know what to expect.
Abraham, I love that you brought that up. Can we talk about what happens the morning you start to play Survivor?
Look, well, first of all, it kicks off with the best music ever, that Survivor theme song. So, but it's dark outside. It is dark. You're preparing for the filming of Survivor. You're preparing to play for Survivor, but you're also prepared to be filmed playing Survivor. So we had to get up, we had to get in wardrobe, we had to go through security, we had to determine what tribes we're going to be on. And then there was like, okay, well, you can get some breakfast, but we don't know what to expect for the whole day. So you don't want to eat a big breakfast. So you're going to be on a raft for the next 6 hours filming. That's your Survivor experience. Even when I got to the actual boat, I was hoping our first thing was going to be on the ground, to tell you the truth. I was like, I don't want to jump in the water. I can swim, but I just like, I'm tired. So you're in the sun, you're out there on the raft. That's when we found out how you can actually go to the bathroom off the back of the raft. You learn a lot of stuff being on Survivor. You
really do. You really do. T1 and T2 off the back of that raft.
Yeah, that's a good one. So, but you're physically, your body is using up whatever energy you had stored. Because now you got up at 3 o'clock, you got your wardrobe on, and I don't know who put these wardrobe things back together, but I would never put that shirt and those pants together, and those shoes, no. And now you have to climb up on the boat, and I was like, don't fall as you climb up to get on the boat. Now, once you see Jeff and the camera crew and everybody else, that's when the adrenaline kicks in, and you're good. You're like, I'm on the game of Survivor, my adrenaline is kicking, right until you jump back in that water. And you was like, I jumped in the water, I could have swore I was there for 20, 30 minutes just waiting for somebody to come get me. Brad, didn't see you. But you're physically exhausted because you haven't eaten anything for the last 12 hours but some water. You just drank some water. So it's an interesting twist of your body and your mind to try to convince itself that you have that energy stored up, but you're technically tired. And now you got to get out here and you got to do that actual challenge, which is physical, and it's hot in Fiji. Don't let nobody fool you, it was hot. And you're running around on this boat and you're looking for these oars, and as Jeff narrates your life on national TV about how you can't find something, mentally you try not to turn around and be like, you know what? I'm about to tell him about himself. So you're just doing a lot of stuff.
Yes. No, I hear you. It's so cool to go behind the lens and talk about what happens, because I think a lot of people are under the impression that you just go, Jeff says, come on in and it's time to go, but that's not how it works. Let's talk about Ponderosa and what happens when you get voted out of Survivor. Abraham, what is the exact process of when Jeff snuffs your torch? What happens after that?
So ours was unique because you had 2 people going at once. So he snuffed my torch, you go down a pathway, and you have to wait for the second tribe to have their whole tribe, which was the equivalent of like 2 hours. I was miserable getting eaten up by mosquitoes waiting for the next tribe to vote and vote out. Here's what people don't see. For me, I'm a little older, Sarah's a little younger, and we both wanted to play the game Survivor. But emotionally, you are happy to have somebody there with you at Ponderosa that can relate to what you just went through. You know, we come all this long way from different parts of the states to play the game of Survivor. And I say like this right here. I think it was important for me to be where I was at for Sarah, and for Sarah to be where she was at for me. You know, I wasn't going to take it that hard. And I could pretty much say, you know what? I had a great time. I enjoyed myself, and put it into a context. But Sarah is playing the game, wanted to get on the game, wanted to prove herself. You have to try to balance out those emotions. You haven't eaten. So Ponderosa is a great opportunity to try to get some balance. And I will say this to Brad. When Brad got voted out and he got off the boat and we met Brad, the first thing he did was tell Sarah how he felt about voting her out. Because Sarah was concerned about that for whatever time period goes between people getting voted out. If it's a day, if it's 2 days, you don't know who's coming next. And she was really, really concerned about why she got voted out. And Brad came, and that was like the joy of understanding why. And everybody has that question of, why did you vote me out? Some people take it differently. Some people take it harshly. Some people put it in context. Me, I was like, I wasn't trying to be the first, but I was. So.
Okay. And that's something I also want to discuss, because what people don't realize is, and I did talk about this a little bit in my last podcast, and it's funny, Sarah, I love her. She's an angel. She's so sweet, because JD said something very similar to what you said. Like, it was nice to have her there. Brad, let's talk about the game that sort of happens at Ponderosa after you leave the actual game of Survivor.
Yeah. So your emotions are wrapped up. You get off, you got voted off, you didn't want this to happen, and it happened. And so you got a million of coulda, shoulda, wouldas going through your mind. What if I did this? What if I did that? How could I have changed it? Why? And so you're running that around, and then you get back to Ponderosa, and when Sarah gave me a hug when I got back to Ponderosa, that's like one of my top 10 best hugs ever. You know what I mean? Because you're so vulnerable and you're so ripped open and raw, and it just felt great. All right, I'm accepted back. It was a game. We're still people. We still respect and love each other. So that was awesome, right? So that immediately sets the tone. And then you kind of want to just be alone for a while. You want to think about your thoughts. And so it's everybody else is wanting to know, though, well, what happened and what happened with this and how that. So you share that, and they're very respectful, but it's just a weird time because your heart is so vulnerable that it's hard. It's just heart-wrenching.
It really is. And I think that's the part, all my TikTokers are like, I really want to go. And I'm like, and I want that for you too, but I just want you to understand the gravity of what you're signing up for, because there's so many questions and what ifs, and playing with that can be very dangerous at a place like Ponderosa.
Now, it messes with your mind.
And I also want to point out to you, I didn't know Brad in the game. I didn't know Brad before pregame, and I didn't know Brad during quarantine because we didn't talk. So I didn't meet Brad until Brad got voted out of the game of Survivor. And I was hiding from everybody in one of the bungalows by myself. And Brad shows up at the door. It's like, who is this guy? I got my movies here. I got a puzzle. I done took snacks from the bar up front. I just want a little peace and quiet. And Brad comes down and sit down. And that's where me and Brad met at. So it was...
Yeah, you want to talk about healing, to see Abraham in his zone, man, his nest. He's got things figured out. And I'm just this raw, my heart's been ripped out of me by Shan. She's like this vulture that's just been ripping my flesh. And then I run into Abraham in room 28 at Malolo. If you want to Google it, room 28, that's where me and Abraham, that's where we had our nest, where we had our comfort zone right there. And man, we bonded. It was healing. It was good for both of us.
Wow. I love to hear that. What were your living accommodations like? Who was rooming with who? Did you guys have your own bedrooms at Ponderosa?
Yeah, we
totally got our own rooms. Yeah, each one there were a lot of rooms because of COVID. They had all kind of space availability. Nobody was coming in. Nobody was going out. So we each had our own room. They treated us like kings, man. Cheeseburgers, just you name it. We had it. Treated us very special.
Tim Tams. That's what we read.
Tim Tams.
Let's talk about a typical day in the life at Ponderosa. You wake up, what happens?
Yeah, so you wake up in the morning, and first thing, you love to get out on those, just on the beach, right? It's an amazing beach, and you go and you just kind of take it in as the sun's rising. And then, man, you go to breakfast, and the breakfasts there are amazing. So you sit down, you have your breakfast, and then you try to start getting into a routine. Okay, you got to work out, you got to get that blood flowing, but yet you want to entertain too. So then there's always swimming out, kayaking out in the ocean, and you just get in this routine, and then you kind of go to the social part, and the other players are there, and you're playing games with them, and you kind of just reintegrating into life.
It's a great experience because, again, you get to meet the cast members that you didn't know before the game started. And you get to learn about their lives and learn about them and how they came to say, hey, I'm on Survivor this season. How many people applied X number of times? Who was applying before the pandemic? What happened to them and why they didn't get selected. And you kind of go through a whole new learning process. Because at the end of Survivor, these people either going to be a part of your life for the rest of your life because you got a shared experience, or you're not going to speak to them again. Because we're different people from different parts of the world. And it was a great opportunity to meet Brad. It was a great opportunity to meet Sarah, Jeannie, but it was 7 of us. Sydney, there was a whole other part that I had never met before or spoken to. So we developed those relationships after the game of Survivor because we weren't allowed to be together at that time doing the way they set our season up. So it was great to be able to meet everybody and have an opportunity to be able to say, hey, we shared in this experience. And you know what? How was this experience for you? Really, how did you enjoy this experience? And I've had an opportunity to speak on it and talk to people and be a part of different podcasts. And I said, look, if you didn't go there to enjoy the experience of it, you didn't go to Survivor because only one person can win. But everybody can share in the same experience.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. The craziest part, Lauren, when you're on Ponderosa and you're pre-merge, you're feeling like it was too early of a boot, you're feeling bad. But every 2 days, right? Every 2 days, your emotion is running high because you know somebody else is going to come off that boat, right? You don't know who it's going to be. You don't know how raw they're going to be, how mad. And so that's the craziest part of Ponderosa is seeing who's coming off in 2 days.
I was looking for all of y'all to try. That's the only person I was looking for. I'm going to tell you the truth. I was like, yep, let's bring them on in. When I started seeing the green tribe, I was like, did I not? Let me send y'all a note. And we prayed for rain every night.
Yeah.
We did.
Oh my gosh. So after you left the game, what were both of your predictions for what would happen? What'd you think? Like, Abraham, I know you wanted Yasa to go home.
So, hey, look, people are like, yes, I did. You know, you kind of pick out who you want to win or have a chance of winning.
Who was your season 41 winner pick?
Well, I had two different picks for my own tribe because that's the people I do. I wanted to see either Xander or Liana win. And just because they're the next generation. And I wanted to see them take that whole experience of knowledge that we gave them in a blueprint of Survivor, because you can see it on YouTube now, and kind of run with it and see what direction they were going in. What we didn't anticipate is how different our season was going to be to previous season. Everybody said, well, this season was harder, it was shorter. Let me tell you something. Every season Survivor has uniqueness to only those people that played that season. If you played in Africa, guess what? You had an experience. If you played in China, guess what? You had an experience. So I don't compare the two. We just had our own experience. You had never seen where 3 different tribes had to say that saying, Brad, I don't think he would even eat broccoli again. I don't think Nasir knows what AstroTurf even looked like. You know, you could have never said that he never saw AstroTurf. You know, the butterfly, come on, Xander. He was the butterfly guy. And you're trying to wove all that into a season and make it a Survivor. Now, off of looking at the other tribes, I wanted to play with some different people. I wanted to play with Brad. I wanted to play with Danny. I would have took Evie. And, you know, I would have made my own tribe up because I know we kind of switched our tribes around because the pandemic ended up taking one of our original players, which kind of changed our whole tribe dynamics. Because if I'm not mistaken, Shan was going to be on my tribe, not yours, which would have changed Brad's outcome.
Completely.
You know?
She did tell me that she did get switched last minute.
So Tiffany got picked up to be on my tribe. There's so many things that I'll put them in the coulda, woulda, shoulda category. But voting out, I prayed for rain every night on Ponderosa. And I said, I'll wait here until the next Yasa person arrived. I sat and I was happy when Tiffany got voted out, not because I wanted to see her leave the game. I was like, hey, I hope she don't win. But that's just the competitive part of I wanted to play to win. And I wanted to be still playing, but I didn't think it was cut short. I think I enjoyed my experience and it lasted as long as it did.
I love that. Brad, I want to hear your winner pick, but I also want to know what's your relationship like with broccoli these days?
Don't touch it, guys. Don't do it.
You guys good? You and Broccoli, you friends?
It's me and Broccoli.
Go ahead.
Yeah, me and Broccoli are good, Lauren.
You're good? When you had to say that statement, Brad, let's talk about that. Were you just like, oh my gosh, what am I saying?
So the producers told me, Brad, this has to be verbatim. You got to get this perfect. And I think if they wouldn't have told me that, I would have had it perfect. But I was thinking 100 times I ran through my head. I didn't realize it till now. Broccoli's just a bunch of small trees. I didn't realize it till I had it down, right? But then I had to camouflage it. I had to put it in there. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to be sneaky. I'm getting skinny. I'm getting twiggy. You know, I got this bushy hair. And I put too much thought into that. And so then it was like, okay, it's time to crush the line. It was gone. It was gone. I'm like, oh no, Lauren, you've been there, right? You've been there when it's time to say something, when you got the punchline of the joke. And it was so horrible. But my favorite of the whole thing is when Xander and I were on the plateau, on the water. Like what you said about the broccoli. I love that.
I love that too. That was such a great moment. I loved watching that. Who are your winner picks, Brad? Who did you want to see win after you left the game?
After I left the game, I was convinced Shan was going to crush it. Lauren, she was so good at reading people and knowing their needs. She knew exactly how to identify every person and then use that to weave this. And she didn't have a heart to care about what she did to them. And so she had the emotion out of it. She had the calculating mind. And once she did that to me, I'm like, oh, Shan's going to crush him. She's going to eat him alive. But, it's a complicated game, but she definitely was my winner pick.
She had a theme song too.
She had a theme song. So of the season. So that could lead you to believe that she's the winner. And speaking of relationships and, you know, the Survivor family and all of that, who do you still keep in contact with? Who do you guys still talk to?
I'll let Brad answer this.
And I am going to ask the reverse of who do you wish the best to and you could just never see them again. So let's start with the first one and then we'll go to the latter.
So the pre-merge group was awesome. Voce, Sarah, Jeannie, Abraham, Sydney, just fantastic people. You know what I mean? Very, very fun. But Xander and I kind of, he I don't know. I loved his game. So I try to reach out to him. He's busy. He's on the run. You know what I mean? But definitely the pre-merge people are who we're closest to.
Abraham?
I'm a second that. That was good, Brad. I like when you did that. The pre-merge people, because we had more time to spend together. So where me and Brad spent time looking at movies and stuff and talking about our families and talking about different issues that were impacting the world, we had that time together. The ones before that, we didn't have that time. So you're forming your relationship differently than the pre-merge. So I would say the pre-merge, I keep in contact with all of them. So, and I'll reach out during the course of, it will never be 2 weeks that go by where I won't reach out to one of them and say, hey, what's going on? How you doing? I just texted Heather today, and she wasn't pre-merge, to tell her I was going to see my mom next week. And guess what? Let's hang out because she's only 30 minutes from my mom's house. So those, you kind of build those after and before. So the pre-merge, definitely that particular group, we all keep in contact. Or we've actually visited, I've seen Sydney in California, Sarah in California, and then you kind of integrate the ones that are actually still playing the show afterwards.
And then let's go for the reverse.
I'll give you two guesses, Lauren.
This is a good one. This is gonna be a good one.
So the last words I said to Shan as I walked out, I said, "You got me." And Jeff snuffed my torch, and I never have talked to Shan again. There's nothing Shan could say that I would believe. I gave her my everything, right? I know it's just a game. People tell me, Brad, it's just a game. Yeah, it's just a game. But I feel like Shan crossed the line of religion and swearing on religion and what you can do with religion. Plus, she kind of had I don't know, without getting too deep, but she didn't really care about the person themselves, or, you know what, I didn't feel it. And so it's like, you know what, it's just going to mess with my mind to talk to Shan and go from there. So no, I haven't talked to Shan or Ricard since the game.
Thank you for your transparency. I do appreciate that, Brad. This game is so complicated and there's so many layers. So I really appreciate that. Abraham?
Well, and again, each tribe is different. Now I will say I didn't speak to Tiffany until some kind of way somebody reached back out to me that says, hey, Tiffany wants to talk to you. So that was kind of how you kind of talk to the people that were still there once they got back. So I've spoken with everybody. Some people I speak to more frequently than others. But at the end of the day, I didn't have that experience Brad had with that particular case. And I understand how things work, and I understand how, yes, it is a game, and yes, but some people, we can look at previous seasons, we can look at our season. You feel that, yeah, you took it over the line. And I'm like, yeah, it's a couple things. I'm like, I looked at it on TV, I said, that's not gonna play out well. But for me, it was different because my tribe voted me out. I didn't really have any hard feelings. I think they tried to make it out that me and Tiffany had a little beef going on. I was like, nah. But at the time, I'm like, Brad, I didn't have anything to say to her, because he was the instrument of my voting out. So, but when we spoke for the first time, I think we talked for like 2 hours. So we talked for like 2 hours. And that is that part you say, hey, either I didn't have anything and I wanted to get to know who she was. I talked to Deshaun, I talked to Danny, I talked to Ricard. And I've spoken to some people, I just don't speak to them on a regular basis.
Do you guys have any regrets from your game or anything that you wish that you would have done differently?
I don't think you can regret the experience. There's so many people that would love to have been in our position. And you just, what is there to regret? That I got voted out? Everybody got voted out. I mean, at the end of the day, we were in Fiji. I like to go ahead and say for Ace, Mike, and Jim, the Fijians that took care of us, you can't change that experience. But they took all our technology, and we got a chance to sit on the dock and just be at peace for how long that pregame lasted. And I'm like, I'm never going to say that I would change anything, because I don't know how it would have turned out. Had I voted out, if they'd have voted out, I could have still got voted out second. You never know. So I'm just going to hold on to the fact that I had a great experience. I enjoyed it. And I've met some people that are going to be a part of my life. So I'm going to keep it that way. I keep it simple.
Brad, what about you?
No, I like Abraham. I got no regrets in the game. It was amazing. Yeah, I'd do it again in a heartbeat. I do totally regret sharing my advantages. Future Survivor players, weigh it, wrestle with it. Don't do it. Boston Rob is right for a reason, right? I mean, there's so much more I could have done with that. I didn't need to be that vulnerable to Shan. I didn't need to tell her that, I didn't need to share all of that to still try to win her trust. And keeping a few of those under my sleeve would have been a good thing.
Don't worry. Hey, Brad, if we was on the same tribe, we'd have been good to go.
One person changes everything. Yeah.
So Amazing Race 2023, Brad Abraham, we calling it?
Hey, look, we've already submitted our application. And we're just, hey, Jesse, we're waiting for you to call us back. Look, you cannot beat two guys that met on Survivor, one from the city, one from Atlanta. Brad is from Wyoming. Come on.
Come on.
And I'm like 5'9". But I will say this right here. We've applied for Amazing Race. We put our application in because we
don't tell them too much, Abraham. We're gonna be on. They can see us on the show.
Do that.
There it is.
That's why I like Brad right there.
See, you guys are great. Dynamic duo right here. Where can everyone keep up with you guys on social media as you journey through life?
So you can find me on Instagram, Abraham_99_99.
And I think we lost Brad.
That's because Brad is in Wyoming.
Yes, Brad's having some technical difficulties. I'll put his handle down there below. Thank you so much for sitting down with me, Abraham. This has been great. And Brad as well, whenever he does come back, and giving us some insight on what happens after you play Survivor. I'm Lauren Ashley Beck. This is Life After Borneo. As we gear up for season 42, I want to know who else you guys want me to interview. Who else do you want to hear from? Drop that in the comments down below. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. Survivor Barbie, out.